Okay, hi everybody. It looks like about 8 of you are signed on at this point, so I'm really excited about having a bigger group this week. Thank you to those of you who are joining us this week who maybe have not been able to in the past. I think that you'll find that you'll just get so much more out of the session being here in person and being able to interact with our guest speaker and ask questions about assignments that are due. So we're going to dive right in, and what we're going to do today is I'm going to have our guest speaker come up and get started in just a second. And then once that presentation is wrapped up and you've had a chance to ask questions, then we will stay on the GoToMeeting for just a few extra minutes to go over some things that are coming up in the assignments and questions that some of you are having in common, just so we can address all of those together. Make sure that you feel really good when you leave the session today about what the expectations are as we move forward into the rest of the term. So we have a guest speaker here with us today that's going to talk to you a little bit just about sort of research around careers, career possibilities, and it's really going to align very directly with all of the assignments you have in this module, and really particularly within the rest of the unit. So I urge you to pay really close attention, and if you have questions that are coming up throughout the presentation, you can use the chat box and you can type those questions to keep track of them. That way when it comes time for questions and answer time, you're able to participate like you need to in the meeting, but also maybe not have forgotten a question that you wanted to ask specifically that came up throughout the presentation. So just a couple of reminders. Make sure that your microphones are muted, just so we don't have the background noise. And then again, just use the chat box function if you have questions during the presentation that we can address at the end. So I'm going to go ahead and welcome up our guest speaker. I'm going to welcome Sandy McCarthy, and I'm going to turn it over to her. I will be back in just a little bit.
All right, that works. All right, thanks, Casey. Hi, everyone. So we're going to go over some parts of using career information that you're going to have an assignment after this for answering questions. And I'm going to bring you to 3 great sites. So I'm going to back out of our PowerPoint here real quick. And yeah, I did. It's like, come on. Oh, there we go. Got it. Technology. All right. So we have a library guide that's also in the class for this assignment and any questions. So the questions are here in the 3 sites. So Occupational Handbook, ONET, and Career One Stop. And I have to say, I learn something new every time I actually use these sites. They go through some transition on their end. And Career One Stop kind of threw me for a loop back in January, but I kind of reviewed it again to see what they're doing with restructuring. So the activity I'm actually walking you through, I'm just going to pull up this Word doc right away, is this document here, which is going through the 3 sites. And I'm going to highlight for you what's there, how do you find it. And it's going to help you out later with your activity of answering questions about this. So let's get right in. So I linked them here. To be honest with you, you can also go out and go to the web and you can put in Occupational Outlook Handbook and you'll be taken to the site. And one thing about this site too, the OOH is also used by our college at WCC when they look at programs and the growth and the job market. So it's a valuable tool that's used throughout our college actually, as well as within your own career too. And this is something I wish when I was in college wasn't really around. I think actually the print might have been around. This was used to be a print form. So let's get started. So this site will give you career information, their duties, education, training, pay, outlooks, for hundreds of occupations. There's a lot of areas you can search. On the left-hand side, you've got these occupation groups. They list for you in the center here. You could search by pay or education. They always feature a job, hazardous materials removal worker. That's quite interesting, what they have featured today. And down below, there's some other interesting kind of buttons that they have: highest paying, fastest growing, most jobs. These are worth looking at on your own time. So to use this, we're going to use our little search box here, and I'm going to use from my search, physical therapy assistant, which is our PTA program on campus. And so you're going to type in your careers. You're doing just like I'm showing you here. The reason why I picked this career, we have several on our campus where you can complete a certificate, you can complete the associate's degree, but there's another level. You can transfer. There's a bachelor's degree, there's a master's degree. You can keep going on with your education. You can get a job in the field. and then continue with your education. So it's kind of like learning on the job too. So I'm going to pick my physical therapy assistants, my first link, and we're going to review the information that's listed here. So take the time, whatever career you're choosing, go through. There's a lot of information. The summary page just gives you some brief scenarios. Important piece is the wages. You're going to find this per hour and an annual salary. They'll tell you about education. They'll talk about the number of jobs, what's the job outlook, and this is a good one, everyone. 30% growth for PTAs. You want a career that's got growth, so this will give you a good idea when you're looking up your career, or actually the two careers you're going to be reviewing. Look for growth. If this is a negative number, once you get out, this is where you may struggle finding a job, and after your education, that's something you don't want to actually be doing. And then you'll find an employment change that's going on from here. So let's look at the tabs. What do? They include the duties. They started adding in images. It's just one scenario in the water environment for physical therapy. You're going to find that listed. Work environment, where could you work? And so to me, work environment plays into how much you're paid. So if you work in a hospital or an office or a nursing care facility, to be honest with you, the pay scale changes. So you may find that even the pay range when we get to that tab is a general. It's gonna, depending where you work, what facility you're at, that has an impact. You'll also see where the most jobs are in what environment from there too. Work schedule, they're gonna work around the clock almost, basically, even if you're, especially if you're in a hospital. So how to become one? Education. For the PTA, that's what we offer here at our community college. There's an associate's degree some may need. Some of them it's just getting a certificate. So go through here, and it depends on what level you're going through. You'll need state license. This is also a requirement. So that'll play into what career you're searching. This career actually has that. And some qualifications are listed down here. So you can compare that to yourself looking at the career and see if that fits what you need. These links will also take you out to some accreditation bodies, and will tell you more about training and what's needed as far as like a license also. So pay is important. We want to make the most that we can. You're going to find at the very bottom 25,000, and it goes up to 56. That's for someone who is a PTA. So 56,000, I'm guessing, is the one with the associate's degree. And the 25,000 is someone who's got just a certificate. So see with that, and actually if you go on and get a bachelor's degree, a master's degree, your pay is actually even higher. So when you're looking at your career, look at that. One of the other sites we'll look at will focus in on state level, so we can compare the national to the state. So I'll show that, and that's why we show you more than one site, some unique features. Job outlook. So the very first page, our summary, gave us an outlook. There's a 31% growth expected. And this is really good, actually. That's higher than average. You can go down below, and they're going to give you how many jobs are opening nationally too. And they project it. So this is a 10-year range projection. They tend to update it periodically. I would assume in another year this will change to like a 2018 to 2026 outlook for doing it. So this to me is an important piece of information. State and data area, they point you to other resources. I'm going to show you in the other source. We'll actually end up going to the Career One Stop, but we're going to look at ONET too. It's going to be very specific to the state of Michigan that we can do, or any state actually. You might find yourself moving to a different state, or maybe you're in a different state, and you can compare that kind of data. Similar occupations, what's very similar to the physical therapy assistant, and there's some other health areas you can look at. And so they give you a median pay, entry level kind of requirements from there, and they hyperlink it. So right here, notice it says physical therapist, that second from the bottom. That's somebody who's got the bachelor's degree or master's degree. So it's continuing your education, another level or two, and you're going to notice that the pay drastically increases for that area. So it's a good way of getting started. And then they just have a tab that goes more information, and they send you out to national associations. And I would suggest for whatever your career is, go out there. It's really kind of interesting. It's like keeping up in the field. You could join as a student. It's usually really cheap as a student membership, and they'll kind of guide you with conferences or anything that's going on in the profession in itself. So it's nice to get into that. So I'm going to move on from here. Any questions, anybody with Occupational Outlook Handbook? I'll wait a second before I go into my other one.
I'm going to take that from back here too, just so they can really see the question.
Okay.
So that's the
Oh, you got it. Okay.
Yeah.
Yep, a little chat.
We'll see if they work.
Maybe not. It's a simple site and really good to use. Okay. All right. So let me go. We're going to go back to my guide site here. Back over. And we're going to go into ONET. So ONET, same thing. You can go out, you can use the link from this guide, which is in your class. It's also in the handout that you'll be using. You can also go online. You can just type in ONET into any search engine, and you're going to be taken to the site. And this one is just another version of careers. They have some 900 occupations that they go over. You're going to notice again, there's a bunch of areas that can get you into hot technology jobs. If you're a veteran, start your career you dreamed about, they'll give you information here. But the simplest thing, again, is that box at the top. And I'm going to use my physical therapy assistant and press enter. And it gives me a whole list, again, very similar. What I'm interested in is the very first. They're also telling me it has a bright outlook. So not only does it have a little sunshine, but it actually has the words listed as bright outlook. And these are other kind of similar, some are kind of occupations. So I'm going to click on my first result. And from here, it's really, the thing about this site, I find it very dense. You'll notice how the content is laid out to you compared to the Occupational Outlook Handbook. They start off with a summary. They go into the tasks. You can click the little plus signs, and it expands for you even more. I'm going to go into a detailed tab in a second. But technology skills, software you'd be using on the job, knowledge, skills, abilities, and so on. I'm going to compare this, though, to the detailed page. And they really expand this for you. So this percentage on the bar means 94% of your time is doing this core task. So as you go through this and you look at the careers you've selected for yourself, if you're not interested, this doesn't relate to you, it's a good time to kind of give you that feedback of is this right for you or not. So that's what they're doing here. Technology skills, same thing here. They're even expanded even more what technology you could be using on the job. Let's face it, any job you're in these days, technology is a part of it. So even for the, it's recording notes and such of patients that you're using some type of software that's there. Tools used, they're going to list here for you, such as a balance beam, canes, etc., full body immersion within a bath or tank, obviously in water. Knowledge, they talk about customer service, language knowledge, psychology, therapy, and so on. Skills that you need. Monitoring your patient, active listening. You've got these abilities of comprehending what the comprehension as far as what the patient is telling you, and so on. It's listing work activities. And what I mean dense is, they really go into detail here. It's like what's going on. You kind of get lost at some point. So I'm going to keep going. There's some piece at the bottom I'm really interested in getting into. Work context, again, contact with others pretty much 100% of the time, and less so with exposed to disease or infection, less as far as that's going on with a patient. Job zone. So down here, here they talk about it. So specifically, we're looking at the physical therapy assistant. That's an associate's degree, or even a certificate you can complete that's even less and get out, but the associate's the ideal. Credentials, so you can look here, and this means they're going to do training too, that when you click on these, you can go to the individual states. So I'm just going to find training real quick. And you're here at the college, so you don't have to really do this step, but I'm just going to pick on Michigan. Here we go. And it gives you a pop-up. These are worth looking at just to see. So we're listed first here. And then it's listing some other competitors that are in the area or within the state at least. And it will do that for the rest of these too. Find a license, certification, and so on. So your interest. So I'm going to keep going. Work values, there's tons here. Related occupations. All right, so the piece I like on this site is called Wages and Employment Trends. So notice the wages. I think there's like $1 more here or 1,000 more also compared to Occupational Outlook Handbook, and that's fine. State wages. Click on this button, and it kept Michigan because I had just previously put it in here, so it's pulling it up again. And it compares us nationally. So Michigan is in red, nationally is in blue. So nationally, on the high end, we're almost there. Notice there's a there's a difference here of some 7,000, and even the median age of median wage between salaries here, Michigan versus nationally, and I think that has a lot to do with what state you're living in. So Michigan maybe pays a little bit less, but depending where you go and what state you're in, that's going to have an impact. So I know I've shown this in the past other classes. I'm actually going to do this again. And I did live in California for about a year behind Oakland, very expensive state to live in. And so this is where you see a drastic change here. So notice now California makes more than the national average. The cost of living in California is extremely high, maybe even twice as high, time and a half. I don't know. Michigan, there's a big difference. So your salaries on all spectrums of any career, you're going to find that are higher than the national average. And that's exactly why so notice here on the high end for just the associate's degree, it's at 83,000. And that's because of the cost of living out there. So keep that in mind. Excuse me. All right, so the other piece I love here is employment trends. And I'm going to go back to my Michigan since we're here. All right, so this was the outlook. So Michigan has a 41% growth. Nationally, it's 41 is US, 29% in Michigan. So there's a job market out there for you if you were picking this career. Pay attention to these numbers as you go through your individual career. And you can do this. You can download some of this data. I don't know if you need to, but you're going to find the numbers that are listed here too. So I'm going to close this out. And same thing, employment trends. Let's click on our California here. Let's see what kind of growth they're looking at. And they're doing pretty good too, at 39%. So there's jobs in that state as well. So I'm guessing with national being 41%, I'm guessing this is a career you can go to any state and you're gonna find yourself employed pretty easily here. All right, so let's go down. Job openings on the web. This is a site for finding jobs. We're not going to go there with this search. And then it's taking you out to some other. Actually, it's pointing you back to the Occupational Outlook Handbook, which is where we were. So they're citing that over. So just remember this site. What's unique is you can relate it back to a state level with the numbers, and it's just more dense. Some of this I don't know. You pick and choose what you look at and go from there. But you can use just the broad categories and probably be okay with that. So any questions here?
So there was a question.
There's one.
And it looks like it's from a few minutes ago.
Okay. There's no dumb questions, but can I use the local public library where I live information resources? You can. It all depends if they have a career center. Absolutely. The 3 sites we're showing you, you'll find them on the web, so you're going to be able to use them that way too. But it's a great question. We have a lot of career sources. So what happens is the web content is more up to date than what we get in print. So here at the library at WCC, we tended to shy away from collecting a lot about career information resources because actually on the web, it is one of those areas where, to be honest with you, that is a better area to look. It's more up to date. They can update it quickly, And by the time we get something, it's always like at least 1 year back for doing it. So it's a good question. Yes, you can. It all depends what your local public library is going to offer you. All right. Any questions with ONET? Oh, you're welcome. Okay. All right, so let me pull up my third. So our third site is called Career One Stop. All right, so this one I used it this past January, and I use this periodically actually, and it kind of threw me for a loop. So what I would have told you again, same kind of features. Maybe you're a laid off worker, veteran again, older worker, worker with disabilities. These are some areas that you can go into, and they kind of help you track with like Job Outlook and what's going on. So usually I search this box at the top, but I've discovered something a little bit better. So when you mouse over these top headings, the Explore Careers to me is interesting. And I came in, and I highly suggest everyone, this is where you begin. So you'll mouse over, and watch you don't click on it. If you click on it, it like closes up on you. Just mouse over, it stays. Type in your career. So this one is helping you spell out, love it. So we got one less keystroke to do. And then it wants the location. So you can put in a city. I think you can put in state level too. I'm going to put in WCC's zip code. So I'm going to put in 48105. And we'll see where that plays in as we scroll down the page. So what they did on this site, they give you a video. They're trying to, and a transcript. So if you're not able to hear anything, you can download the transcript for the words. A day in the life of a PTA, and they're going to give you a little snippet here of what's going on. What do? They give you a little summary again, and they also give you what is a physical therapy assistant, also known as, and they give you all these different names too. And that depends on your level of education. Actually, this is going to play into your job title. It's going to be based on your education from that. So they also give us a bright outlook of what's going on. Find job openings. So this will get you, it's going to point you to a job site. Now, projected employment, when I put in Ann Arbor zip code here for where we're at, it's relating it very specifically and compared these results for me nationally. You'll have it side by side. And some of the numbers, yeah, it's going to repeat. You're going to notice that these numbers match, I think, the ONET they gave us there. You can change out what we listed. Here's your education. Associate's degree, no work experience, no on-the-job training, because they want you to have either a certificate or the associate's degree. On the right-hand side, typical wages and how it grows over time. You can change this to a chart, and you can go to a table. So however you want to use the numbers that you can use. Typical education, and notice they're moving up. The most have the associates. Students continue on for their bachelor's, and then going on few and fewer at the master's and PhD level for that. But you can find, and then there's a link for local training that was also on the other site. They've got skills listing here too, show your skills, and you can look for certificate license detail for your state. I'm actually going to click here. And so they actually limited it because we started off with Ann Arbor zip code, or one of the zip codes here. It's catering it to Michigan already. And you can click the link and follow the link and go there. And it's going to tell you the license name, and it's going to point you back to the Michigan Department of Licensing and Regulatory Affairs. They're the ones who actually, that's where you're taking your exam and getting the license through the state of Michigan. So these links are a good option to follow so that you can get that kind of information. Learn on the job. This is really not one that does that. The physical therapy assistant really is something you're going to go to college for. Activities. You know what, they did I think a little, I like how they kind of condensed what you do here daily compared to what ONET is saying. And then they put the knowledge, they put skill level, what abilities you need. And then again, they always give you that related occupations that are listed here too. So they kind of chunk things around in nice boxes, more visual, less dense, kind of like ONET. But the reason why we take you to all three, I can't, say this enough, is there's always something unique between the three sites, and they're good for you to know what information is out there. And sometimes maybe your career's in one of them and not the other. I've had that happen with students face to face. So I see a question down here. How accurate is the site's database? Oh, into pay scale. Okay, so that's done. That's a good question. It's done by the Labor Bureau of Labor Statistics by the government. And so you'll notice they say 2016. It takes at least a year to cycle through and gather data and stick it out there again. So it is probably the most accurate. I would assume, being that we're now the beginning of 2018, at some point this year, those numbers should change to 2017. And some of them had 2014 to 2024, I think. That should start to scale over. So they're the most accurate, because if anybody else is using numbers, most likely they got it from the Bureau of Labor Statistics, who's pushing this number out there for you. So that'll do that. Which website do you recommend to check first? Oh, my favorite, to be honest with you, really is the Occupational Outlook Handbook. And it is something the college, when they're looking at new programs or our current programs, they look on the Occupational Outlook Handbook. So that's my #1 kind of go-to for doing it. So that's a good question too. Any other questions? All right, well, thanks everyone. I do know, I'll just put into, if you are watching the video, you're gonna end up with like 3 extra questions that you're gonna email me, and make sure you're also emailing Casey Crone, your instructor, that we know, and I'll follow up with you within like 24 hours, 40 hours at the latest. But that's only for those of you if you're watching the video after the fact. So I'll turn it back over to you, Casey.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks, Sandy.
Yeah, thanks.
Also appreciate it.
Yeah.
Good to see you again. I'll see you soon for all the ACS 108
Oh yeah.
stuff, probably, maybe.
Yeah.
Okay, everyone, I am back. What I'm going to do is I'm going to minimize these, but leave them pulled up in case you have any other questions about the sites. I'm going to go back to our course page and also the PowerPoint, and we're going to walk through a couple of things together. So obviously we're going to end a little bit early today. It's a shorter presentation, but I want to make sure that we touch base about some class-specific items. So a couple of things. So that was Sandy. So yeah, those of you who are watching this live, this doesn't apply to you, but those of you who are watching this as a recording, and you'll need to complete your alternative assignment, you're going to need to email Sandy as part of your 3 questions for the guest speaker. And so here is her email address, mccarthy@wccnet.edu. So if you watch this recording later and you're completing your 3 questions for the presenter, you're going to need to ask 3 questions about the presentation she gave today and email her here at this email address. Those of you who are watching it live, I want to make sure you have the email address as well in case you want to follow up with her at all about any of the questions that come up as you're visiting those sites. So we just went through all of those sites together. And again, those of you who are watching this later, you'll need to answer these collaborative questions. So those of you who are still live on the call, what I would like you to do in the chat box is to answer these questions with me now. So what is one career website that you have found useful and why? Have any of you guys tried any career websites in the past to research or to look for jobs or to look at possible careers that you might explore in the future? Has anybody used any of those websites? And if so, would you type them in the chat box, please? Indeed.com, yep, Karen, I've used that one as well. The Glassdoor, Ashley, yep, I've definitely used that one to check on sort of what the workplace is like while I'm applying to a job. So those are 2 really good ones. Has anyone ever used Monster.com? Khalil, you've used OnNet before? Sorry. Yes. Okay, yeah, so Monster is another one. That's getting a little, at this point, like there's so much going on Monster.com that it can be a little overwhelming because there's just like a little bit of everything there. Yeah, so you've had that experience too. It really depends, and I think the one thing about Monster that might still be beneficial is that if you sign up for it, you'll constantly get alerts. So it might just kind of remind you about what's out there, even if you decide not to pursue every opportunity that comes up. Glassdoor is extremely useful. I agree, Rashida. I think it's a great website, especially to find out from former employees of companies what it's like. So what about this one? Has anyone ever used LinkedIn? Or does anyone have a LinkedIn profile? Yes, okay, you do? Good, so some of you do. If you don't have a LinkedIn profile, I would encourage you to use it. Even if it's not something you visit very often, I guess the main reason I would encourage you to use it is that a lot of potential employers will look at LinkedIn really kind of before they look at anything else. And so if they see that you have a presence, they might be able to learn some things about you there that, you know, from your resume that will help them in terms of deciding whether or not you're a good candidate. So I often get job offers from LinkedIn too, Karen. And so I keep my profile up there and I keep it updated with each new skill or each new job that I have. So if you don't have one, just check it out. Give it a chance and see if it might be something for you. But yeah, Rashida, great point. It's really good for networking, especially for certain professions. So let's move on to this last couple. Has anyone ever used careerbuilder.com? Yes, okay. Yes, Ashley, okay. No, okay, so yeah, so again, some of us have used some of these and some of us have not. This is one I actually also haven't used for personal use outside of the lessons for this class. I keep most of my stuff on LinkedIn and I search for jobs on a few specific sites, but this is another option to check out. You don't like their interface, Karen? Yeah, that's fair. I'm sure we all probably have preferences about the sites we like and don't like in terms of their interfaces and just their functionality. So it's good to hear that you guys are exploring different types. We've already talked about Indeed, so I'm going to skip over that one. And I guess I know you already had time to ask questions for Sandy, but I'm going to take us back to our learning units and just kind of remind everyone where we're at, and then I'm going to allow you a chance to ask questions about what's going on in the course, okay? So let's pull up our syllabus and schedule just really quickly. So on our schedule, you will see that today we had Sandy McCarthy as our guest speaker on the 6th, and tomorrow you have a deadline for module number 2 in unit 2, and that deadline is 11:59 p.m. So tomorrow night at 11:59 p.m. you will have completed all of units 1 and all of unit 2. Let's just talk really quickly about some of the items that were due on Sunday night and the things that you should be working on now for your deadline tomorrow night. So we're only focusing on unit 2 right now. So going back to learning units, let's take a look at unit 2. So Sunday night, you had a deadline, and the things that were due were you had to watch a couple of videos to learn how to complete the assignments, and then you had to complete 3 inventories in career cruising and turn that worksheet in. And you also had to complete 3 career cruising worksheets based upon careers identified by the career cruising inventories. Some of you emailed me and said that a couple of the websites were not up and running at that time. If you did and you let me know that, please just get those turned in as soon as possible. And I would also really encourage you to use a couple of different browsers before deciding that the website is up and running or not, okay? So those were the items that were due. You needed to go into the career cruising site and complete those 3 inventories. And then you also needed to complete 3 career cruising worksheets based on different types of careers and just, you know, giving me a little bit of information about each career possibility. For module 2, which is due tomorrow night at midnight, you had to participate in this meeting. So those of you who are live on the call now, you're getting points for that without having to do anything extra. Those of you who are watching the recording, you will need to complete the participation for online meeting or alternative assignment, just like you would any other week. You'll need to complete the entire worksheet and email 3 questions to Sandy to get your full 25 points. You also need to complete your time management planning for unit 3, which is essentially you sharing your time management tool with me. So whether that's a calendar, a Google Calendar that you take a screenshot of or share with me, you need to make sure that those items are present to get the 9 points for that, okay? So this is sort of a lighter module in terms of assignments that are due. Module number 1 of this unit was pretty assignment heavy. So if you're behind, if you're missing anything, if you have work to catch up on, I would really encourage you to do that in this window of time before tomorrow night at midnight, because there isn't a lot due outside of meeting today and completing your time management planning. As we look towards Unit 3, you'll start working on Module 1 after midnight on Wednesday, and you'll have a few things due for that as well. You'll need to watch a video, complete a sample wise choice process based on that video, and then you'll also be completing a career research worksheet, and that will align with the 3 careers identified in your career cruising assignment. You'll need to complete the effective note-taking strategies video quiz. So you'll watch a short video, and then you'll take a video quiz. And then you'll also complete the note-taking practice activity, okay? So make sure that you do all of those assignments by the time that Sunday night at midnight rolls around. And then we will meet again 1 week from today at 10 a.m. So I know that that's a lot, but on the module that you're working on right now, or module 1 from this unit, which was due on Sunday night, are there any questions that you guys are having? Most of you who are live on the call have completed most of these assignments, but I just wanted to check in to see if there were any questions you had or trouble that you're having using Blackboard or any of the assignments. So I'm going to wait just a few moments to see if anyone has questions at this time. Okay, so one thing I will say is that next week when we meet, a week from today, there's a really awesome presentation on internships, apprenticeships, and sort of how to get job experience as you approach thinking about what career choice you want to make. I think it's one of the best guest speaker presentations that we have, and Barb is amazing. So if you are watching this recording or if you're live on the call, I would really strongly encourage you to attend next week's live session because she's very interactive. She'll answer all of the questions you have that are very specific to you, and she's just full of really good information about how to connect you with internships and apprenticeships in the area. So if there are no questions today, I'm going to wrap up our online meeting a little bit early, and if you have questions for me offline or individual questions that you want to ask, please follow up and get in touch with me. Otherwise, I just want to say thank you to all of you for attending, for being patient with the start time, and for asking questions of both Sandy and myself to get your participation points. So have a great rest of your week, a good and safe weekend, and I will see you a week from today right here. Thanks, guys.